You've probably clicked on this video because one of your friends has asked you to climb Crib Goch, and you've been on Instagram or TikTok live and seen some horrifying videos, and now you're wondering, can I actually manage this walk? Well, I recently went up Crib Goch and I filmed it with my GoPro on my shoulder, so it should give you a pretty accurate basically field of view of what I was seeing, what I was doing. So I'm going to go over in commentary and tell you why exactly I did this, what parts to avoid to not become a casualty, and basically some of the shortcuts in order to get you home safe. Now I will say straight away that this is a very physically demanding walk. You do need a good level of upper and lower body strength. There's going to be a lot of climbing. Not extreme climbing, you don't need any sort of ropes or anything like that, but you do need to be able to hold your own weight with your arms, basically for going down. Also, if you have a history of weak knees or like a weak sprained wrist, probably want to sit this one out. The way down the miners or the pig track is pretty brutal, but I guess you could go down the Llanberis and get a bus back if you really wanted. The first thing to do before actually coming to Crib Goch is to check the weather. Obviously, if it's extreme heat or extreme cold, you need to take appropriate clothing for that. But what we're looking for is going to be the wind speed and the visibility. It's incredibly easy to get lost going up Crib Goch in fog. The second thing is the wind speed. Obviously, you've seen the videos of people on the top of Crib Goch, it's very exposed. Now, there is loads and loads of handhold opportunities. You can't really fall off in normal weather, but if it is like 50 mph gusts, obviously, use your head, don't go up on a very exposed ridge in very high winds. It's just asking for trouble, and it's not going to be a pleasant experience either. In terms of parking, you can try or pray to whichever deity you believe in and try to get a place at the Penny Pass car park. This car park is very expensive at £20 for about 6 hours, but it is very secure. You do have staff there and toilets with a little shop as well. Alternatively, you can either park in Llanberis or Nant Peris, I believe. Both of these locations have a shuttle bus that comes around every 15 minutes and will drop you off directly at Penny Pass. There are also other car parks all along the Penny Pass road itself, but these will be filled up very quickly. And if you are serious about doing this walk, I would get here before 8 AM if you can. If you live in the south of England or Scotland, you may want to consider camping the night before. But for me personally, I live in Wigan, Lancashire, so it's about a 2-hour drive, so just set off at like 5 in the morning and you're golden. On this trip, we parked at Nant Peris and we got on the S2 bus and it cost us £3 return, so £3 all day. And for those wondering, the car park at Nant Peris was £5 for a full day, so pretty cheap all round. I'm now going to quickly give you the route in brief detail and then we'll cover it in depth later as we go through the footage. So we're obviously starting at the Penny Pass car park. We're then going to head up the pig track, which is to the right hand side of the car park entrance. It's very important that you don't accidentally go down the miners track. We're going to follow the pig track though all the way up until we get to a right hand turn. This is quite easy to miss, we'll cover it in the footage, but from there we're going to go on the Crib Goch path. We're going to go up the side of the Crib Goch, then going to go along the ridge. We're going to avoid the 2 first pinnacles, then go over the 3rd pinnacle, then down the little path, the arete, and then up Garnedd again. We're then going to go all the way around to Snowdon, or can't really pronounce it in Welsh, I apologise. We're then going to come down the miners track on a nice walk all along the lake until we make it back to Penny Pass car park. If all of this sounds good and you want to see me commenting on the route I take, where the places are best to go, where to best avoid, then stick around for the rest of the video. I think it's piss easy this really. So we set off down the pig track. It is a very obvious path. It's loose gravel with bits of raised stone. You can you could trip over I suppose, but it's very easy to follow, pretty easy underfoot. Can't really get lost either, even in heavy fog. You do eventually come across a little bit of a boulder field, as you can see here in the footage. Not hard whatsoever to get across. Again, the path is very visible. You basically just go from one side to the other. Just watch where you're putting your feet. You could twist your ankle a little bit. As you get to the end of the pig track, you do get to a quite steep bit and you come across this wall as you see in the video. Now, if we pause the video here in just a second, you'll see that there is a sign that says Snowdon on it. This is basically where you need to decide whether you are going to continue up the pig track. As you can see, that man and woman who are going down the pig. But I am turning up towards the right into the Crib Goch path. So just carrying on now, you come to a little bit of a thing that says Crib Goch. So again, obviously, can't really go wrong here. Very easy to follow in poor visibility. The path kind of disintegrates into just a kind of a rocky trail. But again, you can see basically the trodden path. Very hard to get lost here. Pretty easy to walk as well. We do eventually come up to a big warning sign, which can be a little bit intimidating. It says extreme technical route, grade 1 scramble. A little bit daunting, but it's nothing that you can't do if you've got a good, decent physical level of fitness. So after this little bit of a sty, we're going to follow the path. It does get quite steep here though. Again, it is kind of paved like a Roman road type of thing. You're basically going along the side of a cliff with a little bit of climbing involved, a little bit of scrambling, but nothing very serious. Again, it is incredibly obvious where this path is going because it is so well trodden. There's so many people going up and down it that you can't really get lost. You can kind of tell by the rock that it's all like smooth and like a gold dusty colour where the rock's broken down. It's just this bit of the walk is a little bit of a slog. It's just little bits of climbing, following a path, then climbing. Quite enjoyable though, to be honest with you. The next part after that little cairn is where this hike really, well, it turns from a hike into more of a scramble. There is no relief from the elevation gain here. We are just going straight up the side of Crib Goch. Now, there is lots of jagged rock, as you can see here. This seems daunting, but in reality, it is very safe because you've got loads and loads of handholds. You can't really fall. The rock is, again, jagged, so you can really get your feet and your fingers tucked in there, giving yourself a lot of grip. You do get some absolutely stunning views here, as you can see in the video as my very sunburnt hand is intruding in. Now, we did meet someone that was having a little bit of a panic attack, or I think they did try to come down the mountain, and a very kind Scouse man was giving her some support and some advice. He told her to basically just take your time, have a bit of a snack. And then our climb continues, and it doesn't get any less steep, let me tell you that. You're basically just going up and up and up until you get to the very summit of Crib Goch. Just before the summit though, the mountain basically, you get to the point where you're no longer really climbing and it's more of just a very steep hike. This is where I guess all of the softer rock has eroded over the years and it's just left that very hard igneous rock that makes up most of the Snowdon range. As you can see here shortly, it's still very, very jagged, but you now no longer need to use your hands to pull yourself up. You can just take a steep, long walks. We also encountered that kind Scouseman again, and he told us that he was camping in the area with his family. And we kind of just had a chat and looked at the amazing views to the south. I don't know if it's towards the south actually. It is definitely towards Tryfan though, and the Glidders. As you can see in the background, you've got loads and loads of lakes, loads of mountains, and you can basically just admire where you've come from. If you can see in the top right, there's like a little white dot. That is actually the Penny Pass car park. So we've had some serious elevation gain during this little hike, and it's not over yet. So after we had a little snack and a rest, we continued on our adventure. The elevation gain here is kind of gradual, to be honest. It's a lot shallower than the climbing that we've just done. Again, it is quite large strides though, so you are going to be taking a little bit of a beating on your legs. You're going to have sore muscles the day after. But again, it's kind of just like walking up the stairs a few thousand times. It's nothing that you can't do if you've got at least somewhat physical, decent health. As you can see though in a second, the views are definitely worth it. You're basically on a spire, kind of like walking up, I'd guess, like a dragon's back, I guess you could say if you're being a bit dramatic. There's one more little bit of climbing left before we reach the actual summit and the start of the famous Crib Goch Ridge. Again, nothing really too serious, a little bit of hand holding, not really climbing per se, more just my knees being a little bit dodgy and having to use my hands occasionally. We then get to the very top of Crib Goch, and as you see here, I almost bump a man off the cliff and down a very steep drop to the bottom of Crib Goch, which I would not recommend. Not really a great icebreaker to nearly kill a randomer. I think my walking sticks got tangled with his backpack a little bit and we had a bit of a awkward moment, but this is the top of Crib Goch. You got to the top, now it's time for the quote-unquote scary bit. So as you'll see, the very start of the ridge itself is pretty straightforward. It's quite wide, or girthy I guess you could see. It's very easy to just stand up straight here. There's not really an actual ridge. There is there is a very steep drop on your right hand side, as you can see here at the minute. Wouldn't recommend trying to jump off this or doing anything stupid like that. I'm taking a quick picture of the ridge itself. But you can get a fantastic view of Garnedd again, as well as Snowdon in the background, as well as, I can't actually remember the name to the one that's in the centre screen at the minute. But as you can see, the ridge itself, it starts pretty easy, I'm not going to lie. It's not particularly difficult until you get to where this woman is and the man in the blue jacket. Then it starts to become a little bit, well, it's not hard per se. It's really not a hard walk once you get up here. You've already done the hardest part of this walk by just getting on the top here. Again, like a lot of the climbing we did, as you can see, the top is actually incredibly jagged. This makes it actually very easy for you to get your foot in a strong position. And as I said earlier, because all the soft rock has eroded away over the millions of years since this mountain was formed, basically the only thing left is incredibly hard rock that is not going to break, basically. Now, you should check that there's not a loose rock, but the chances of it being loose is basically zero. Millions of people have walked over these rocks in the last 100 years or so, so it's probably not going to snap. That doesn't mean you should run over it like some overconfident guy, but I won't lie to you, me and my friend here were kind of being held up by this couple. It's not particularly hard at this location now. I'm not trying to shame anyone. We were telling this woman take her time because she kept on asking us, do we want to overtake her? It doesn't make sense to rush anyone. This woman's doing a great job. She's going at her own space. I was just giving my friend a talk about the mountains in the background. I'm not pointing at the woman. So as we continue the walk, we can see that we're basically just standing between the left and the right hand side of the actual ridge itself. Now in general, you do want to stick on the left hand side, as you can see here. Now it does get to a little bit of a flat spot, as you can see in the clip at the minute. That spot is a good place to just have a sit down. If you're a little bit nervous, have a snack, get a little bit of sugar back in your system. You can just sit there and basically have no risk of slipping whatsoever. At this point in the video, the couple ask us if we want to get past because it's a bit wider. We say yeah, because we just want to kind of get this over and done with. I've done this ridge once before, my friend hadn't, and we just didn't really want to. You lose your adrenaline shock and it kind of makes you a little bit more nervous. As you can see though, this part of the ridge is still quite wide. It's not really sharp whatsoever. I'd actually say that both Helvellyn and Blencathra are more dangerous in a vacuum. Crib Goch, while it is exposed, you're never really having to do any dangerous thing. Like there's no quote unquote bad step. You can see here that the rock is smooth. It's still quite wide though. You can't really fall unless, as I said at the very start of this video, it's incredibly high winds. It's about 1.5 meters wide at this point. It now gets a little bit narrower. But again, if you keep on the left hand side of the ridge itself and keep your waist at about on level with the ridge, so like your chest and head is above the ridge, you can basically always have 2 feet on a hard solid rock and also have both hands on the actual ridge itself. So you've got at least 3 and sometimes even, well, I guess you've always got 3 points of contact at all times. As you can see in the video here, this is the first kind of bad part. You're kind of going down a little bit. This means if you're a little bit nervous, you may want to do what I'm doing here. You can see on the camera that it is just a sheer drop to your right. Again, I just did take a step there without holding on to anything. It's really not so bad. I do understand that the camera I'm using will make it's basically a wide field of view, so it will make it look a lot steeper than it actually is. So after taking a few quick pictures on the ridge, we carry on. Basically, the second half of the ridge is where things get a little bit more technical. You start going up and down a little bit, and then of course we do come to the famous 3 pinnacles. Now we are going to be skipping the first pinnacle and kind of going around the side of the second pinnacle. It's also at this point where we encounter a group of about 3 lads who, well, I think the two lads up front were actually very competent, but this guy in the blue shorts was a little bit nervous and kind of taking his time. As you can see, this is the part of the ridge that it does get quite narrow. But again, I'm still stood right on top here. Whether you want to do that, that's up to you. you can just stick to the left-hand side. I'm kind of going down it a bit here. As you can see again in the top right-hand side of the screen, it is basically just a sheer drop on the right-hand side of the ridge. I think I did point there to my friend that there is one loose rock. So again, the chances of loose rocks is very, very small, but there are a few. But obviously you don't want to be putting your entire weight on the very top. Just stick waist level and you can't go wrong whatsoever really. So those lads eventually let us pass as they decided to stop for a quick break. And we continued on along the ridge. Now you've done the majority of the hard bit now, to be honest. It does get a little bit dodgy in a second when we start to go down, shall we say, the hump of the dragon, I guess. So it starts to go downhill a little bit. This means you start to have to lean forward while you're going down. A lot of people struggle with this. They feel like they're going to fall. But again, you've got loads and loads of positive hand and foot holds. Very jagged rock. You can't really fall as long as you've got 3 points of contact. So falling just shouldn't be something that you're worrying about. You just can't really fall, to be honest with you, unless you've really, really bad footing or bad knees. It's quite an easy walk, to be honest, as soon as you get to the top. Now, very, very important here as we approach the pinnacles. If you stop and look towards Snowdon, and this is one of the reasons why it is important to do this in decent weather, you can see that in the, well, basically top right-hand screen, you can see there's quite a big boulder sticking out of the ground. This is the direction that you want to head towards in order to do the easy route over the pinnacles. So you can see now that I've approached that large boulder, we basically want to go right between that boulder and the Crib Goch slope. This will become apparent as to why very shortly. Don't be afraid of going down a little bit here off the ridge. It is still pretty flat, you've still got loads, and you can see on the floor it is a very obvious well-trodden path. Now, as we approach this next set of climbers, they're going to be our little demonstration units. You can see that this man and woman going down here. The woman, well, just to the left of the woman's backpack, there is like a patch of dirt. This is where we want to get to. Now, these climbers are going down here. I don't really know why, because that is far more dangerous. There is a very large drop to the left. But once we get to that patch just near that woman's backpack, we're going to go up over the second pinnacle and then down to the start of the third pinnacle. So as you can see now, as we approach this woman, she's going down the much scarier kind of sheer drop there to your left. But we're just going to go straight up here. Now if you rewind a little bit, you'll see that there is quite a lot of a clay colour rock on the floor, which does make it very obvious even in bad weather. Now I'm only 5'7", which is quite short for a man, and I can easily lift myself up here, so if you're a shorter man, don't be afraid of doing a climbing. You're not going to be limited by this. But as we step up onto this, we are basically going up and around the second pinnacle, bypassing the sharp traditional face of it. The only real issue, and you can see what a beautiful view there, is this rock that I'm just climbing over now. It's not hard to get over at all, it's just a bit awkward. Again, I'm overweight as well, so I can easily fit through it. Not an issue whatsoever for anyone in even remotely physical good health. So as you'll see now, we do approach the drop of the second pinnacle. It's nowhere near as bad as like the chimney on Helvellyn. Just go down it on your bum a little bit. Again, it's only about a 6-inch drop there, and I can hold my weight with my arms. Now do bear in mind that we have actually come over that second pinnacle faster than that group in front of us. So we've done it safer and faster by just going up and over rather than around the sheer side of the second pinnacle. Now we have arrived at the beginning of the third pinnacle. This is the famous one because it is theoretically the most dangerous, but it's really not that bad, to be honest. Now you may be wondering why there's such a queue here. Well, ironically, nothing more British than a queue. But the reason that everyone's queuing is because there was a group of girls on top taking selfies, blocking the way up for everyone. Now, I'm not going to make any sexist comments. I'll leave that to the comments section. But yeah, it's a little bit annoying for all the men here. I'm going to mute this section because everyone was kind of slagging them off a little bit. But what you're seeing here now, the guy with the light blue backpack, this is by far the hard, well, it's not even hard. This is the scariest part of this third pinnacle. There's kind of like a big drop to the, well, right on the screen at the minute. It's not a hard step whatsoever, but like if you did fall here, you would die basically. So you can see that I'm actually stood on it right now. It's not particularly hard whatsoever. We're going to be going over the step any second. Well, this is it basically. It's just that. That is it. Now you've done the bad bit. Everything else now going up the third pinnacle is very, very easy. You can see that there's lots of rocks jagging out, lots of places to put your feet, loads of places for your arms to go. So you cannot fall as long as you're a toddler at least and you know how to walk, you cannot fall in this bit. After making up the third pinnacle, you may find a queue for going down it. This is kind of like the chimney on Helvellyn. It's nowhere near as bad though, there's nowhere near the amount of having to like take a leap of faith. You can just go down on your bum. Again, loads and loads of places to put your hands and your legs. It's all hard rock. Again, there's no scree or loose rock for you to slip or basically slip. It's all easily accessible if you've got decent amount of footwear and footing. So just take your time, and after you've done that, you are on the arete leading up to Garnedd again. So this is a good place to have a picnic or have a little bit of a refreshment or snacks. We did off camera because it's just us stuffing our face and complaining about the 30-degree heat. So after satiating your hunger and thirst, you want to carry on going up the path. Again, it's very obvious, you can't really go wrong. There's literally only one path for the time being. You are eventually going to come up across a fork in the road, and it's very important here that you take the right-hand side track. The left-hand side of the track takes you along a very dangerous scree slope where you are very exposed to falling rock, and it's just a very steep thing in general. You are then going to come across, after you follow that path a little bit more, so again, go on the right and then follow the path. You are going to come to the start of what I call, well, Garnedd again, basically. It kind of looks like a solid rock face here, but do not despair. As you can see, there's two paths. You're going to want to take the one on the left-hand side of the screen currently. This is far more shallow. And again, the one in the center of the screen, at the top of the screen at the minute, that is more of a very steep climb, which my 5'7" short ass isn't capable of. But go to the left here, and you're going to be golden. So as we go towards the left, we're just going to follow, again, a very, very obvious path. Thousands of people climb this route every single weekend. So you aren't exactly going to get lost. Just look at the ground. If you can see smooth, polished stone, you're almost certainly going to be going in the right direction. So you want to be going to the left here, and then you want to double back on yourself to the right. Again, you can see the rock where it's brown, basically telling you this is where everyone else has had their feet and you should follow this footpath. So after a bit more climbing, there's no real right or wrong way. As long as you're going up, you're always going to be getting on the top of Garnedd again. The climb goes from, well, a climb into more of just a steep hike again, kind of like on the top of Crib Goch. We're kind of on the ridge line now, so Garnedd again does have a ridge similar to Crib Goch, but it is nowhere near as exposed. It's kind of like the Eiger in that fact, but obviously a million times less scary. You basically got a sheer drop on one side and a rather nice climb or hike on the other side. So as we'll see as we go up a little bit more now, you can see that we do have kind of like a boulder field. Not a hard climb whatsoever, basically just this is the part of the hike where you could risk like twisting an ankle here if you take a bad step. But again, just don't do anything stupid. Don't stand on a sharp rock like you can see in front of me. I do go down here because my brain is telling me it's not worth snapping an ankle on just for looking cool. So you can see on the left hand side you've got basically a drop into the Snowdon Valley, I guess you'd call it. But again, the walking here is absolutely beautiful. Obviously, you got a slight risk to your ankle, but that's about it. No risk of falling, no risk of slipping. All basically just a nice walk. It's kind of like this now all the way to the top of Garnedd again, with the exception of one last little bit of climbing. So this climbing is very, very... it's not very hard at all. You can basically see that we're going up the side of a gully here. You've got handholds either side, lots and lots of grip, and again you've got that beautiful golden coppery path telling you exactly where to go. It's not very exposed either, while you can still have a fantastic view of the valleys below. You can't really slip here. There's no loose rock for you to like misstep or anything like that. Very, very nice, action walked. It also gives you a fantastic view of Snowdon itself, as you can see here. I'm going to point at it. You may be able to make out the pinnacle or the thing that everyone stands on in the distance if you've got very good eyesight. And this brings us on to the last bad climb, shall we say. Now, you probably can go around this some way, but I didn't. So you can see we're coming up behind I believe a Chinese tourist. Not that that really matters. But it's kind of like you need to take like a big step here. Again, I'm 5'7", quite short for a man, so pretty much anyone above average is going to, well, even below average is going to be able to do it. You can see here, I'm going to have to lift my leg up quite high to get up on that. I'm using my knee a little bit there. All it is though is just one kind of awkward step. Not really hard. Obviously not going to prevent anyone with even a little bit of skill. Even kids can go up it, so not hard whatsoever. And after that, we're basically on a fast track now to the top of Garnedd Ugain. There's no more real climbing. You can see that we do drop down onto a nice path here. And it's kind of like this all the way to the trig point on top of Garnedd Ugain. So just speeding up now for the sake of time, because it is literally just a path all the way to the top. I do apologise about the poor framing of the camera. My camera mount drooped a little bit, so it's aiming way too low. But as you can see, the top of Garnedd again, it's only like 30 metres below Snowdon. So you've got a fantastic view. We're going to hit that trig point. Basically, I think someone broke it or someone sabotaged it or something like that. From Garnedd again though, it's a pretty straightforward trek all the way. Well, you're basically dropping about 100 metres onto the Llanberis path, and then you go up Llanberis, up the steps, basically following the railway. You can pop into the cafe and get a bite to eat, or even get the train back down to the Llanberis train station or thingy station, whatever it's called. We then are also going to go and have a little bit of another picnic. If you go around the back of the trig point on top of Snowdon, there is a nice grassy area that not many people seem to know about, and you have a fantastic view of the entire valley and everything that you've just climbed up. So it's well worth going there, not only to get away from the tourists, which tend to be loud and form long, noisy queues, but it's also nice, relaxing after a long hike up. After basking in the summit of Snowdon, you want to make your way back down the Llanberis path until we come across this signpost in the, well, it's sticking out of the ground on a weird angle. This is the Y, or the split off onto the pig/miners track. And on the way that we went, we're obviously going down the miners, so you do want to go down here, as this will take you back to the Penny Pass car park. The hike down from Snowdon, down the pig track and then onto the miners track is for me one of the harder parts of the walk. The road is all very loose, there's just odd rocks everywhere. It's a very obvious path, you can't really get lost, but it's not enjoyable whatsoever. You can't really get into a rhythm. You can't get a good walking pace up, which is what I really like to do when I go hiking. You always basically have to look where your foot is going. Not so much dangerous, but it's just annoying. You can't just like enjoy the scenery. You've got to really pay attention to where you're putting your foot. Thankfully though, once you do get down to the lake, it does transition away from a bumpy Roman style road into a traditional gravel style footpath. And you've got this gravel footpath for about the remaining 4 kilometers of the trip. And it takes you right back to the Penny Pass car park, where you can then get a bus back on the park and ride to wherever you have parked, or get back in your car at Penny Pass, obviously. Either way, you've completed Crib Goch, Garnedd Ugain, and Snowdon, and hopefully not become a statistic in a local newspaper. If you'd like to follow me on Strava or TikTok, then I'll leave links in the description. Please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hopefully this has been a good first video. Hopefully you found some information useful. I know it did drag on a little bit towards the end, but I kind of wanted to be thorough for anyone who's a little bit nervous. You see a lot of videos on people on the ridge itself, but not really on the climb up or after that, so I kind of wanted to cover all bases in a single video. Anyway lads, I've been Jack, and I'll see you in another video.